No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey gardeners, hope your week is going good. I'm just out here checking my cucumber plant out and was wondering whether or not it's been producing, and under these leaves we've got tons of cucumber fruits coming out, which is a great surprise from this plant, which is a second planting of cucumber. It's not necessarily climbing up our trellis very well. It's really just kind of bushing out, but producing tons and tons of fruits, and with more and more coming on each and every day. All right, let's get growing. All right, everyone. It's Saturday. It's time for the Let's Get Growing show here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm going to be your host today. We've got a really great show for you. Today, our featured guest is our good friend Khang Starr. So he'll be joining with us here in just a little bit here. And if you all are joining with us, you know the deal. Get on there and click that like button, hit the thumbs up there, let us know you're all here. Be sure to also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share with all of your gardening friends. Let them know Let's Get Growing shows here and all of our awesome guests that we have each and every week here on the show. And you can check us out at our website at letsgetgrowing.live. And if you all are joining with us here live right now, and you have any questions or comments, especially for Khang when he gets on here in just a little bit, be sure to ask those in the comment section there so that we can pass those questions on and ask them to our guest. So, yeah, be sure to get into the comment section there. So I'd love to hear from all of you guys. And also, best way to support our shows, to support our sponsor. Our sponsor is Ivy Organics at ivyorganics.com. Use the promo code GROW10, GROW10, to get 10% off of everything they have to offer there at their shop. And I also want to send a big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching on the replay. I know a lot of you join us later on in the week during your own free time to watch the show, and we're really grateful to have you. Be sure to also get down below in the comment section below. Let us know you were here. I want to hear from all of you as well. And let us know what you think of the show. Let us know if you got any ideas. If you're watching live now, you can also join back in, get in the comment section, or let us know here, you know, what do you think of the show? Do you have any ideas for us? Do you want to see any certain guests or anything on our shows? So be sure to let us know that as well too. So I hope all of you have been having a great week in the garden. I've been just working really hard. I'm actually trying to get everything cleaned up and prepped and set up. I've got to I'm going to be taking off for a week here. I'll be talking about that in just a minute. So I've been kind of like thinking about what am I going to do to get the garden prepared for the time that I'm going to be gone, and making sure I've got a good list of all the things that need to be looked after or thought about for the person who's going to be watching over my garden during the time that I'm going to be heading out. I mean, this is a conundrum for all of us who have big garden spaces and all sorts of things growing on in our garden is, you know, what are we going to do if we have to take some time away, if we have to leave town, we have to go somewhere? You know, I've actually had a couple of like family type emergency things where I've had to actually leave really quickly, in order to take off for a few days, and having to leave someone to watch my garden and all that. So it's kind of good to set up and have a good like garden plan. What needs to be watered, what do you need them to really be looking after and keeping an eye on. Are there anything that you just really don't want them to do, like don't be weeding, because I don't want anybody weeding in my garden. That's something I never ask anybody for, is to weed my garden, because you never know what's gonna what's gonna be pulled or taken out if you're not supervising such a project like that. So there's things like that you want to be able to make sure that you're passing on to whoever's going to be watching your garden. So I've got that kind of in the works right now, and after the show we'll be hanging out with the person who's going to be watching my garden, and going over all of that sort of stuff too. So that's going to be it's going to be great to have somebody to watch over my garden, because I'm going to be able to get a chance to take off and head out. We've got um, a really big week planned up for us here this next week. It is the week of the National Heirloom Exposition. It's the 10th National Heirloom Exposition, and they're finally getting to hold a National Heirloom Exposition after, I think this will be like 3 years now since the last one. It was 2019 was the last one I went to. So the 20, 21, and 22 expositions were all kind of canceled, or what weren't being able to be put on for the last year because of timing and venue and things like that, I believe. So we're finally getting around to the 10th heirloom exposition, which is really great, because I was really getting used to that being the thing there for 2017, 18, and 19, 3 years in a row, going to this really fun pure food festival held by Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. And it's just a really great time for anybody who loves gardening, who loves growing things. They just have such a great exposition there, their exhibit hall, where they show off all the different things that they have all their farmers growing, from the various different seeds that you can get from the Baker Creek seed catalog, plus tons of other seed vendors, tons of other things, just varieties of tomatoes you've never seen all in one place, squash and pumpkins and watermelons, and they even have the giant pumpkins there as well too, and all sorts of stuff. So great vendors, great expositions by tons of different people showing off all sorts of different things in the gardening world, as well as some really awesome speakers, and I know they're awesome speakers too, because several of them, I think over half a dozen or so of the speakers there at the Heirloom Exposition, have already been on our show, including the founder of Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company, Jer Gettle, who was a guest on our show back several weeks ago during the spring. And you got Wendy Fan, John Kohler, Bevan Cohen, who's been on the show with us, Christy Wilhelmy, and of course, Ashley Thomas, the mocha gardener who was on last week's show, who we interviewed and talked all about her book, How to Become a Gardener. So it's going to be great to get down there and get to see everybody in person, and be able to talk with them. And that's what we're going to do this next Wednesday. So that's kind of our big news for the show going forward for this next week. We won't have a show next Saturday. What we will is have a show this coming Wednesday. So it's just going to be a few days. We'll have another live show at the exposition. So we'll be live there. We'll hopefully have all of those guests that we've had on the show. Hopefully we'll have them stop by, maybe talk about the Heirloom Expo. I'm going to try to show you guys around and the things going on there, and make it just a really fun live show for us. But that will be on Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's when we'll be doing that. And let's see here. Yeah, I don't have the time, but I'll show this here. Yeah, Let's Get Growing live at the 10th National Heirloom Exposition, and we'll be doing that again at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll put posts up and put a notification for the channel and all of that here later on in the day. And then there'll be a show you can go ahead and set a reminder for, because it'll be a little bit different for us. It won't be on a Saturday morning. It'll be on Wednesday afternoon, but it's gonna be really fun. I'm really excited about that, about getting there and being able to attend this event again. It'll be different this time too. The last 3 years that we went to the National Heirloom Exposition, it was held in Northern California, just north of the Bay Area in Santa Rosa. And it'd been held there since it started. So this year will be different. Now that they're restarting again, they're going down to Southern California, be right outside of LA in the Ventura County Fairgrounds. So it's going to be really cool to see how maybe different the show is. I'm sure it's going to be great. There's going to be, tons of people there getting to see lots of great speakers, everything I've said already, but it's going to be a great show. Really, really excited about it. I know, I'm all excited about it. I've been talking nothing about this for the whole year since we got this show started, and also every time we've got one of the guests on that I know that we're going to be seeing at the show and everything. So I've been talking all about it. It's finally here this week. I'm excited. I'm going to be taking off just a little bit after. Like I said, I got someone coming over. We're going to talk about what to do to take care of the garden spaces, make sure that I come back and all my plants are still alive and not dried up and dead or anything. But everything's gonna be fine, and I'm sure when it comes to all of that. But yeah, it's gonna be great to finally get out and go and do this. And plus, I've got a bunch of other different visits and different things I'm going to be doing as well, which will be upcoming videos for the Urban Garden channel that we'll have as well in the coming weeks. So I got a bunch of exciting things that I get to go and experience this next week. And then over the next coming weeks, all of you can follow along with us here on the Urban Gardener channel and catch up with all of those things that we've got going there as well too. So we're going to take just a little bit of a break here, and then when we get back, we'll join in with our featured guest here. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
IV Organic brand products are innovative, organic, effective, and USA made products to help make this your best growing season. Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic brand products has a product for you, whether you be an organic orchard or a backyard grower that's trying to do things right. IV Organics has a product for you. IV Organic all-purpose fertilizers are unlike most fertilizers on the market in the sense that it has all 6 plant macronutrients. These are nutrients that plants need in abundance. Most people are just focused, and most people have only been trained to focus on the NPK, but IV Organic brand fertilizers deliver all 6 plant macronutrients, which include your nitrogen for your greening and growth, phosphorus for flowers and fruit, and also in the summertime helps with the drought resistance of the plant. Potassium, important for root development, disease resistance, and then the other 3 macronutrients that IV Organic all-purpose fertilizers have include magnesium, which is the heart of the chlorophyll molecule, sulfur, important for the greening and the metabolic processes within the plant, and number 6, and actually about 1/3 of the plant's weight, is calcium.
All right. So for this week's featured guest, we have with us our good friend. He's been on several of our different live streams over the last few years, and a real pepper grower and all of that. We're going to talk all about that with our friend Khang Starr. Let's get him on here with us. All right, there we are. How you doing, Khang?
Enoch, how you doing? I'm doing great.
Good. Can you hear me all good?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. We can hear you too. Awesome. Great to have you on the Let's Get Growing show with us here. Again, as I just mentioned, we've had you on several different times, but it's first time for us to have you on our actual Let's Get Growing show. So welcome. Thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome, man. So how you been? How's things been growing? You're I'll let everybody know you're from Texas. So how's everything going on down there, and how's the garden growing this year?
Yeah, Texas has been rough for the past probably 3 to 4 months. I mean, I don't think I saw
Yeah,
rain since May.
yeah.
And I actually just got back from my property checking on my fruit trees, and man,
Oh,
it's looking bad out there.
oh no. Oh no. You don't got it. Yeah, they're probably just drying up. You get
Yeah,
yeah.
the ground, they're cracking because
Oh
we haven't
no.
had rain for so long. The garden's doing fine because I'm there to manage it, but
Yeah.
where the trees, I just let it you know manage
Yeah.
themselves and count on the rain to help with the watering and all that stuff. And
Oh
we haven't
man.
had any.
Oh no. Oh man. Yeah, so you gotta really take probably set up some sort of water system for those. Make sure they because yeah, you don't want to lose your trees, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think in the future I'm gonna start, some kind of rain collection methods, that I'm
Yeah.
trying to put together. And so I think next year I will start working on that, just some kind of natural way to capture rainwater and, to water those trees when, we don't have any rain
Yeah.
for a long time.
I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was, that they were doing videos. It was a few years back. I think they bought just some open property in Arizona. But
Hmm.
what he did was he just built basically a roof,
Uh-huh.
like a flat roof with the kind of the roof siding or whatever it is that has the ridges. And
Hmm.
that's all it was just, and it was huge, maybe 40-50 feet by 40-50 feet,
Wow.
and then had it on a slope, and
Hmm.
then gutters, and then flew that into like a water cistern or whatever. But just built a roof, no house, no nothing underneath of it, just a roof to collect rainwater.
That's
So
interesting. Yeah,
it's
that's
something to
actually
think
a really
about.
good
I
idea.
might have to see if I can't find those videos for you or something. But
Yeah.
I thought that was the most fascinating thing. We do get some rain here, and I'm in a similar situation where
Mhm.
well, up until last week, actually, we haven't seen any rain since, May ourselves,
Wow.
and yeah, luckily for us, it did come when it did too, because we were really smoke. We just been dealing with wildfire smoke for the last
I see.
month or so, and then all of a sudden we got this just downpour that came through, and then the next day it was blue skies, everything was clear, plants were loving life, the garden
Yeah.
was just perking, and everything was really great. So it was nice to get the rain when we did, but usually it would still be another few more weeks for us before we'd get some rain. So
Yeah.
hopefully you guys will get some too. You kind of being in Texas though, it's just kind of the way it is there, huh?
Yeah, it's I don't remember that it was this bad. I mean, last year was pretty bad. This year is actually extra bad because not only that we didn't get rain, but we also get temperatures, like above 100 degrees for like months.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So, but we all got to kind of figure out things based on what we have, and hopefully make sure that we can manage things all right, and
Yeah.
hopefully and you'll get some systems set up, and your trees will be just fine in seasons to come, because it's probably only getting hotter, right?
It should be cooling down pretty soon. I have a shed out there, a 20 by 30, that I need to put gutters in, and attach some gutters and run it down to a catcher. And that's what I plan to do in the next coming year.
Oh yeah, that's good too. Yep. So I do have my own kind of small setup for rain catchment. I just, we got regular gutters coming off. Then I got
Hmm.
this kind of tube that runs from the gutter and takes it right into I have basically two garbage cans, two
Hmm.
big like 40-gallon garbage cans stacked on top of each other. So when
Nice.
when one fills up, the bottom fills up, then the top fills up. So it kind of fills its way up, and then I use it. You know, it's a pretty cool little system for our small garden.
Yeah.
But you know, that thing fills up in May. You know, I've got a nice full couple of things full of it, and then, you know, by mid-June, I've used all that water up. It's, you know, I could. It's the thing about rain catchment. I mean, you don't know how much water you really go through when you're caring for
Yeah.
plants and have garden spaces until you start using it up and see it go so fast. So, you know, I could use like big, like, you know, big water cistern just for myself.
So do you put anything in there to like prevent mosquitoes and all that stuff?
No, because I use it. You know,
Okay.
that's just kind of the thing, you know, is you don't want it sitting, and it
Mhm.
takes time. You know, it takes time for those to develop, eggs to, you know, develop, hatch, do all of that in just sitting water. So I
Mhm.
try not to let it sit at all, you know.
Okay.
Um, uh, Another way that you could do that, if that's something you were doing and you had something larger, and you have like, you know, you just need movement. So like a little water pump inside one of them would do good, just to create movement in the water,
Mhm.
so that you're not having to add anything. I know they have like these different types of like mosquito egg killer type stuff that you can add to your, you know, your water barrels and things like that.
Mhm.
I'd recommend using a water pump before I'd add anything to a water setup like that, because that's all you really want to do, is you want to create the movement, and
Yeah.
then the eggs can't form and hatch, and they can't lay them, all that, whatever, as long as it's moving water.
I love your
Right on.
setup there, Enoch. Is that
Yeah, yeah, this is the whole.
that
I mean, if you remember, I was pretty much back in the corner when I used to do all the other live
yeah,
streams,
yeah.
kind of close in and all of that. So I decided to kind of expand out, set up a little desk here, and yeah,
Is that a real
have
sunflower?
ourselves yeah, it's a real one.
Wow,
I just pulled that off.
that's pretty
Yeah,
neat.
yeah. We got a bunch of nice sunflowers this year, which was a real surprise too, because they didn't get off to the best start. I had a lot of plants that didn't get off to the best start.
Yeah, I had a bunch of sunflowers that I grew. It's you know, I grow a lot of microgreens, sunflower microgreens, and
Yeah,
the little stragglers that don't want to grow, I just, you know, I take them out and I put them in the garden. I mean, they grow massive, and then
yeah.
I collect those seeds and I grow the microgreens all
Hmm.
over again. So you can actually do that, you know?
That's what I'll be doing. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
got several heads.
that's what I did. It's pretty neat. It saves you a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing too, is and I've been you know, trying to do that a little bit more and incorporate that each year.
Hmm.
Last year and this year, but I ran into a problem this year. But last year I saved all my peas.
Hmm.
So, you know, I harvest some peas up, and then I let the plant produce a bunch more. And then I grew some specifically just for seed, so
Yeah,
that I could collect all those pea seeds, because pea shoots are like one of my favorite microgreens.
yeah, me too. I
So
love it.
I had a ton of pea shoots, you know, for last year. But
Uh-huh.
this year, man, I got that dreaded pea weevil. And this is a first for me. I'd never
Really?
seen this little monster before in my life.
Hmm.
And it totally surprised me as I was collecting the pea pods.
Uh-huh.
You know, I was noticing like a few of them had these little holes in them, and I'm like,
Hmm.
what in
Hmm.
the world is this? And then little did I expect that in that actual hole was the bug still burrowed up inside of there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so they're in there hiding until they can come out and lay their other eggs or whatever they do, and however they do it, 'cause I was kinda researching them a little bit. But I never dealt with these things before. They're freaky when you get this little pea bug flying out of your peas, but
Yeah,
basically ruined all of my seed. I mean, there's a few good seed in there, but not in, you know, not much
I
this year.
see. Yeah, you
So
get
now
them
I got,
in peppers too sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the
but
same
yeah,
type of,
definitely.
the
You
same
know,
weevil, the same bug.
I don't know if they're the same, but you know, there's pepper weevil that I've seen in the
Yeah.
garden occasionally. I try to
Yeah.
stay on top of the pests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in lately, for some reason, I started growing like varieties of different types of plants, and that kind of reduced the amount of pests that I have in the garden. I don't even use any spray at all.
Right.
It's Yeah, so I
I
think
try not
naturally
to.
you can just grow various types of plants, and then the garden just takes care of themselves. If the bugs get eaten up, they fight each other, and then
Yeah.
you don't get a lot of pests.
Yeah, that's kind of been the case for me. I mean, and I think this year, as opposed to other years,
Hmm.
I haven't cared for and maintained things on the level that I would usually do. So that's kind of been the thing for me. So I probably invited a lot of situations to happen by not being on top of certain things when it comes to
Hmm.
creating that healthy, environment that,
Yeah.
you want healthy plants, healthy soil. And
Hmm.
then again, you're creating that environment for that, specifically what you're talking about
Hmm.
to happen,
Yeah, yeah.
is that then all of the natural balance of everything just kind of takes care of, stuff,
Yeah, and it tastes a lot better too. So I give you a really cool example. So
Yeah.
I have been growing ground cherries, and here these are the ground cherries right here. So
Oh
I pick them
yes.
all the time, and I gave seeds to my brother, and we're growing the same thing. And when I pick mine, there's usually a lot smaller than his, but man, the sweetness is just it's just
Yeah.
amazing. And he gave me a bag of his ground cherries, and they don't taste as good. They're more like watered down. It's just the flavor is just not as good. And so
Right.
I'm like, what are you feeding your plants? He's like, oh, I've been fertilizing my plants with some of the stuff that he bought at Home Depot. And I was like,
Oh,
no wonder it's so massive. But mine, I don't. I fertilize with my compost and worm castings and stuff like that. I made a lot of
hmm,
compost last year, and occasionally I'll use these chicken manure that the organic chicken manure,
yeah.
and that's basically all I use for these ground cherries. And I pick them and I test them against each other. I was like, man, mine tastes so much better. And
Hmm.
I told my wife, and she's like, nah, that can't be. So I let her try it. I was like, okay, try these two. She's like, wow,
Yeah.
that there is a huge difference. So the
Right.
flavor goes into how you grow it, and the more natural you allow it to be, the better it tastes.
Yes. I completely agree. Yeah, if you're just kind of, I try not to overfeed or overdo things and create again that just nice natural balance, natural
Mhm.
cycle, and again, compost,
Yeah.
worm castings. Again, for some of the peppers, I've in previous years used like
Hmm.
fish emulsion and things like that, and as far as extras, about as far as extra as I go. Some chicken manure if I get a good source, that sort of
Hmm.
thing. Do the same type of stuff as you're talking about. And again, creating that natural organic balance,
Hmm.
creating these healthy plants and all of those nutrients, all those minerals, all those extra things that your
Hmm.
plants are getting from all of
Yeah.
that stuff are going into the concentration of flavor that is going into the development of those fruits and different
Hmm.
things that your plants are developing for you. I mean, it's so worthwhile because again, like what I guess your friend is doing is just pumping it up and getting nice plants and getting nice looking fruit and all of that,
Yeah.
the same sort of pumping up that they're doing to these farmed, foods that we see at the grocery store.
Hmm.
Big, plump, colorful, look
Yeah.
great on the
Yeah.
shelf, then you cut into them. Where's
Yeah.
the flavor, right?
Yeah, definitely. Same with fruit trees. So I grow a lot of
Hmm.
pear trees. I have a pear series going, and my pears, they don't get very big. I mean, they're apple size, but they're the same variety that you buy in the store that are like enormous. They look like little pumpkins.
Yeah.
And when I let my friends try them, say, look, there is no pears that you can buy in the grocery store that can compare to the ones that I grow. And they don't believe me.
Yeah.
I say, okay, come over. I'll cut them up and I'll let you try it. And I let them try.
Yeah.
He's like, man, this thing is amazing. It's juicier. it's a lot smaller, has much
Hmm.
more flavor, and the sweetness like brown sugar. It's just outstanding, you know. And I mean, they
Yeah.
don't believe me until I let them try it, and then after that, he's like, "Hey, can I have some to go?" You know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's, the proof is in the taste test, when it
Yeah.
comes down to it. And I've spent like those first few years I was gardening doing a lot of that comparison,
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get a
That's the fun
tomato
part.
from the store, check it out compared to the tomato that I've got. And you do that actual taste test and
Hmm.
you see that difference. And
Hmm.
it's and that's because again too those foods that
Hmm.
are in the store are all developed and grown to look nice
Hmm.
and to store on the shelf as for as long as possible, and so they're
Yeah.
only breeding those certain traits into them
Hmm.
and again the growing environment probably isn't as organic in a lot of cases, and
Hmm.
so again, another way for a plant to lose a lot of its flavor.
Yeah. And earlier you mentioned fish emulsion. That's one of my secret ingredient. I love those stuff. So
Yeah.
I fertilize my fruit trees, but also my oak trees in the front. I have two oak trees in the front that were like struggling from there's these bugs. They ate through the trunk of the tree, and
Yeah.
they tunnel through
Oh wow.
the bark. And
Oh my
I mean
gosh.
it was dying. And you go up to the bark and you can kind of like push your finger, and the
Yeah.
bark, the trunk just crack. And I mean there's just half of the bark left. I mean, the
Oh
tree
wow.
could easily just tip over, because it's so badly damaged. And so I
Dang.
found what was happening, and so I got a screwdriver and I dug into the bark, and I saw a tunnel that was just going through into the bark, So I
Yeah.
removed the bugs, and after that, I was like, man, this tree's dead. There's no way to
y-
save it. There's only half of the
Right.
tree left that's still alive.
Right.
But so that's 2 years ago. And then what I did was I made sure that I spray those area down every season with the bugs pesticide, the organic one,
Yeah.
and then it prevent them from just coming back and doing more damage. And then I fertilize it with fish emulsion like twice a month, just a little
Yeah.
bit. It doesn't have to be
Just to
a
pump
lot.
it up.
Yeah, and then the tree came back to life. It grew. It healed over the tree. Yeah, it's just
The
amazing. It's really
yeah.
weird. The live part of the trunk healed over to the damaged part, and now it looks like a full tree again. It's just
Wow.
crazy. And all I
Wow.
did was just make sure I spray the tree with those organic
Yeah.
oil
Yeah.
every season before when it went dormant, and then in the spring when they start to sprout little new leaves,
Mhm.
every 2 weeks or something, I give it fish emulsion, and now it's so lush and so green.
Oh yeah, fish emulsion's great, and it was the one. It was actually I didn't have any, and I didn't bother. I just again, I'm not care. I haven't been caring for my garden the way I should be. I'm telling you, I'm admitting this to everybody this year. A lot of other things going on, but um, fish emulsion was one of the big ones. I talked about this
Hmm.
with Christopher
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about that, and it was like one of those things I know now. Because I can tell the difference from what
Hmm.
my plants were in the previous years when I did
Hmm.
do that, and I can tell that I skipped it for
Yeah.
sure, and so it's one of those things, just learning process. I'm not going to skip that again when it comes down to it. But I did want to mention, because this is a great opportunity just to mention too, though, that what you were talking about with your tree there
Hmm.
is a great reason to and I've got to do this and throw a little other shout out to our sponsor, IV Organic. They make this 3-in-1 plant guard,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like a paint
Hmm.
that you would paint your tree with, and it's all natural, all organic, with probably the same types of oils that you're using on there
Yeah.
and all that. And that's just a really great way to kind of be preventive to try from getting those bugs and pests. But
Yeah.
also, because you live in Texas too, I'm sure that some of your trees can be susceptible to some sun scald and burning in the sun and as well
Yeah.
too. So it protects against all of that sort of stuff, the bugs, the sun, even winter when it's cold and all of that. There's a really great thing to do. So I recommend that to people who might be dealing with similar issues with their sort of trees. I know I've got to do that and get some on my trees, which I'll be doing here real soon for the getting them ready for winter. But yeah, because I grow all my trees in containers, and I had a really bad loss when it came to that. My tree actually died. There was no way I was bringing it back to life. I tried and tried and tried, but so I did have a casualty out there as well too. So what do you do?
Yeah,
Just
I mean, you tried your best. I mean, I didn't want to lose those trees because
mhm.
they're pretty big. They're like 10 feet tall. To get another
Yeah,
tree to be that size, it's gonna take years.
yeah,
And so I saved it. Both of the trees went through the same thing. The bugs were just eating through the bark, and
right.
it lived. Yeah, and that paint that you were talking about from IV Organic, I actually
Yeah.
used it on the trees that I mentioned because
Oh
Charles
yes.
had a container.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and it has
so,
like a minty smell to it
yeah, because
when
it's
you
all
when you put it
just
on.
yeah, it's like mint oils, cinnamon oil, all those different types of oils that
Yeah,
really, I guess, work great for uh deterring pests and all of that as well too. But yeah, it's great stuff. Definitely something to instead of like putting like regular paint, which people do on trees, you know what I mean? You can use this really organic stuff. And
yeah.
yeah, well, that's awesome. So let's see, Kang, I want to dig into, because that's one of the things we love to do here on the show, is kind of dig into everybody's garden story. So I want to
Okay.
kind of I know we've probably talked about this a little bit before on past live streams you've been on, but for our show, we'll kind of introduce everybody to you a little bit. When did you first start gardening? When was your first gardening experience? Was it when you were young and had family, or did you start when you were older?
I started at a very young age because my grandparents are farmers back in our
Yeah,
country in Vietnam,
yeah,
and so they grow rice, they grow fruit orchards, jackfruits. I mean, any tropical fruits that you can imagine. I mean, we probably had it.
yeah.
And so we used to grow peas and corn. Of course, there's no pesticide. I used to help my grandfather with the peas. What we do is, we plant the peas in rows, and
Yeah,
so every so often, the peas get attacked by, butterflies, and they'll have caterpillars and all that stuff. And you actually don't spray. You go up and down and you pick them off by hand.
oh yeah, huh?
Yeah.
The
So
most
you,
natural way of taking care of those
yeah.
things, right?
In those days there's no such thing as fertilizer is we don't have
Pesticides
them.
and
um,
yeah.
Pesticides don't have them, so you just go up and down and pick those bugs off of those peas. And I still remember that.
Right.
And we grow orchards of oranges. The funny thing, I'll tell you a story. It's so funny. So in our country, oranges are green. When they're ripe,
Green.
they're green. Yeah. And
Oh
so
wow.
when I first came to Texas, and then somebody gave me an orange, I was like, "This is spoiled. It's orange. It's already done and it's spoiled. It's a bad orange because oranges are supposed to be green.
Right.
So in our country, orange are green. When you open them up, they're sweet, they're juicy, they're really
Are they
good.
orange like a
No, they're green. They have a little bit
even
of
inside is green? The flesh
no, the
inside is green?
inside's orange, but the outer,
Oh,
the
okay. Yeah,
peel
yeah.
is green. And so
Okay.
when they turn completely orange, I mean, they're already spoiled and bad. They're beyond the ripe process. And so I was like, wow, well, how come all the orange in the stores are already spoiled? Because and I didn't
Wow, that's
realize that orange here are actually orange in color. And so that's
wow. Yeah. Well, I never realized that there's varieties that are green
yeah. I
and
think in
orange
most
on the
tropical
inside. And
countries, the orange are green.
wow, that's interesting. Yeah, that's great. So they grew lots of oranges and all sorts
Uh,
of different things throughout the
Oranges,
year. I'm sure there's
yeah.
just lots of year-round growing in Vietnam,
Yeah,
right?
because it's tropical. There's no
Yeah.
there's always. I mean, we have mangoes. I mean, our mangoes are, I mean, our mangoes harvests are just ridiculous. You know, it's like there's, you know, we also have one mango tree that are in the front of the house that produce so much that it just falls into the river and, you know, just float away because you
Oh,
can't just harvest them all. And then
yeah.
we grow jackfruits, you know, those
Oh my
massive
gosh.
jackfruits, you know.
Yeah, I bet those are
And
good.
so my grandparents, you know, they taught me how to like pat it, and there's a
Yeah,
certain sound you hear and certain smell,
right.
and that's when they're ready.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I
And so I
love
think
some.
that's where all the love of gardening came from. You know, we grow
Yeah,
everything basically.
yeah, just being around all of that,
Hmm.
just that really awesome stuff. So, how old were you when you moved to the U.S. from Vietnam?
I think I got here. What was it? I came here and start third grade right away. What age was that? 8, 9,
Maybe
10?
eight,
I don't know. I
yeah,
forgot.
8, 9, 10, right in that range.
Somewhere around there. But
So you had a good few years then in Vietnam to have that
yeah, yeah,
experience and
definitely.
to work with your grandparents in those spaces and
Hmm. So yeah, I started third grade, but I think they
yeah,
held me back because I couldn't speak English, you know? And so
right,
they're like, he doesn't speak any English at all. And so,
right. You had to start with the ESL classes and
yep, I did all that.
right on, right on. Yeah, that must have been a, pretty big kind of culture shock though for a young kid. Well, you mean your whole family, I would imagine though too.
Yeah.
Or in that and going for anybody who immigrates from one place to the next, where
Hmm.
no matter where you are, it's a
Yeah.
huge deal. So, yeah, going from well, I mean, where you moved to Texas?
Hmm. Dallas, Texas. Um, I mean,
Okay.
we've been all over the place. Like we've been in the Philippines, we've been to Malaysia, and then to the U.S.
Okay, so you just kind of started moving around before that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's great. So again, you're landing the US and you're in Texas. So I mean, a little bit different of kind of a growing environment, but still
Hmm.
warm and hot and all of that, so
Yeah, it's definitely
not
different.
too much of a climatic change then, right?
Yeah, because where I'm from, there's no such thing as snow. You know, it's just in the winter times it rains and then it dropped down to like the high 70s or something like that.
Right,
You don't
exactly.
get cold. It doesn't get cold, and you never seen snow before until I came to Texas.
No doubt, huh? Yeah, that's great. And so when you moved and you got to Texas when you were a young kid, so you're, again, probably around 10 years old, did your parents garden? Did they start growing things, in your homes when you were
Mhm.
still young, but with your parents?
They did not, but I live in this community where there's this plot of land that they created a community of gardening. So they
Yeah.
apply they assign little slot to each family, and then
Yeah.
you can go there and you grow your own things. We didn't get a slot, but my neighbors did, and so I just
Oh,
follow his mom to
oh
to the
yeah.
little plots and help her with growing these peppers and
Yeah.
little herbs and all those stuff and spices, and yeah, I grew peppers at that age too in third grade.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, so you still could found some experience then too in the garden and all of that. Let's see. Pacific Permaculture says oranges don't get orange color in Hawaii either.
There you go.
I think it has something to do with the temperatures, maybe. I'm not sure. But definitely, being a more tropical environment,
Hmm.
you must have something to do. Or and and then again, varieties,
Hmm.
they're always, developing varieties that, for the especially for color. I'm
Hmm.
sure that bright orange color for people who are marketing oranges, is
Yeah.
probably really more appealing than a green
Yeah, I
one,
definitely. I think that might be a good reason also. But here's another thing that's really, really interesting. So when we grow those oranges, we actually farm these ants. There's certain type of ants that are allowed to live on those trees, and without those
Yeah.
ants, the orange would not be as sweet. And so you
Oh,
always
really?
try to, make sure that the ants are fine, and then and you allow them to have their nest on the trees and stuff like that, and it makes the orange extra sweet.
Really? What is it about the ants that makes it extra sweet, do you think?
I,
I
you
mean, I
know,
can
I,
imagine that they pollinate, to a
yeah, it
certain
could be.
extent, going through different things and maybe that sort of stuff. But yeah, just
Yeah, I
making
think
them
they
extra.
do some of the pollination, but they also fight off the bugs and stuff. And so
Oh, okay.
these ants, they're pretty big ants. They're like large orange ants, and they live in these colonies. And
Right.
they make bridges amongst the trees so that they can go, around to
Right.
other trees. And
Oh,
those
that's
are the
great.
type of ants that you don't really farm them, but you make sure that they're good where they are and they're happy.
Yeah, you're not trying to get rid of them at all.
Yeah. No,
Welcome these things. These are good luck.
yeah.
And that's with a lot of stuff, a lot of bugs, especially in our garden, though, too, is that we have to be aware of those
Hmm.
ones that are beneficial, the ones that are
Yeah.
going to be helping out, not just in pollination, but helping control other pests.
Hmm.
I know one of them that, when I was growing up, if a wasp started flying around, I was hiking it. I was gone. I was running. I was so afraid of bees and wasps and all of that sort of stuff. And
Hmm.
bees are pretty simple. We all understand how beneficial and what they do, but
Hmm.
wasps are as well too. So,
Hmm.
there's a lot that they do in the garden that, they hunt down a lot of those you know, especially the moth caterpillars when they're
Yeah.
nice and
The
young.
hornworm.
You'll see wasps flying around your plants, and that's what they're doing. They're looking under the
Yeah.
leaves and around the leaves, trying to find these worms to feed on and all of that. So, sometimes there are things that you don't think of, like
Hmm.
ants.
Yeah.
Although ants cause another situation for my garden. The ants that I have in my garden is that they're the farmers in my
Hmm.
garden, and they're the ones farming these aphids and
Yeah.
bringing aphids from one plant to the other and farming them out and harvesting their nectar or whatever that they do in
Hmm.
order to do that. But so I'm not too happy about some of the ants that I have.
Yeah, you're right about the wasp because I do have a lot of them in my garden, especially right now because it's so hot, and they love hiding under these my pear leaves. They just go under and they hide down, to get away from
Yeah,
the heat. And when I go out there, there's a ton of them. It's more than usual, but because
yeah,
there's so many of them, I haven't seen a caterpillar in a few months. They eat them
yeah.
all.
Yeah. That's again too, I tell people when they see wasps, and I see people talking about like wasp nests and that sort of thing, is like, you know what? If the wasps were flying around my garden, I just kind of go hang out at another part and I let them do
Yeah.
their thing. And when they're done, I'll go in there and I'll check on things and do what I got to do when they're done doing what they got to do. I might not want to be near them, but I know what they're doing for me. So,
Yeah. You,
yeah.
you know what's one thing that's really interesting? I think a lot of people don't realize the wasps in your gardens are the paper wasps, right? And they do make homes in your house. And a lot of the times people would pull them off because they're afraid of them. They pull the homes off. But
Oh,
these
right.
wasps are
Yeah.
actually they're very territorial. So if there's a home there, the other one won't
Uh-huh.
make a home near it. And so they'll make less homes on your home if you leave it there.
That's right.
Yeah, don't pull them off.
And yeah, yeah. And that's a very similar thing with spiders.
Hmm.
Black wit Here in my area, we got black widow spiders, lots of
Hmm.
them. Well, I would say lots of them, but if you're moving and removing black widow spiders, you're inviting more of them because they're very similar. They're
I
territorial. So if
see.
you remove one from its territory,
Uh-huh.
others will come and try to take that territory. And, so if you keep them and leave them and know where they are, the best thing about a black widow is just knowing where they are.
I
Because
see.
they don't want to bug you. They don't want to bother you. They're not going to come crawling around and trying to attack you or anything like that. They just want to be up in their cold, dark space
Hmm.
and wait for other things that it can feed on to come around, and hopefully it's something that's doing its work, being beneficial, taking
Yeah.
care of the other bugs that you don't want around in your garden.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't have black widows here. I guess thank goodness, because you know my wife there's she's scared of
Yeah,
spiders, but
right.
that's the thing with bugs, right? There's always good bugs and bad bugs. You got to get to
Hmm.
know the type of bugs you have. Sometimes the bad bugs are the good bugs because they become food for the good bugs.
Yeah,
And so if you get rid of all of them, then the good bugs will move away because there's no food left for them to eat.
yeah,
And so you can't, there's always a balance in everything.
yeah.
So you
That's
kind of have to study and learn about, how to use it towards your advantage and just not completely get rid of everything, because then you have to try to artificially introduce something else,
hmm
for the plants. So if you have them naturally and there's a balance, it's always good for the
yeah.
ecosystem, I would say, for your garden.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about too, or just a little bit ago, is the idea of creating healthy soil.
Hmm.
The first, I mean, that's probably your first thing, as a beginning gardener that you really want to concentrate on
Hmm.
is soil and soil microbiology, building that life, having
Hmm.
all those little things in there, the microorganisms, the fungi, all of that working
Hmm.
together, creating a really healthy balance of soil.
Hmm.
That way, then you're creating healthy plants,
Yeah,
and those
yeah.
healthy plants attract, uh, or deter a lot of plant
Hmm.
bugs and things. But
Yeah.
that healthy balance creates that balance as well, when it comes to other pests and other sort of things, as they can manage themselves. And then you don't need any sprays. You just
Hmm.
let things work as they work, because as long as you got a good healthy garden, that balance in that ecosystem will be there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, most definitely.
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, that's why I say I try not to, unless things are looking, really, like right now, I got one area of some things right now where I'm starting to get some white fly,
Oh
and
man, yeah.
when that starts happening, then now I'm ready to start spraying.
White flies are a different story, because if you
Yeah,
let them, they just multiply overnight.
yeah,
So I've had an issue like that many years ago, where
mhm,
they're just white flies, and there's just a few, and I just like, okay,
yeah,
I'll just leave them be. And then a
yep,
week later, I mean, they're just everywhere on my cucumber
hmm
plants. And so that's when I was like, man, we got to spray these things, and you got to continually spray them until they all die, because they,
yep,
they, they multiply very fast.
yeah,
So
yeah.
white
It's
flies is one thing that I definitely would treat right away.
Yeah, and then yeah, when I see that, because I've done that. Oh, same thing. I'm like, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
With everything, I've always kind of tested it and let it run its course, so I
Hmm.
can kind of see what how it works. And other ones I've been able to figure out, kind of take care of. I mean, even squash bugs. I've been able to kind of figure out a way of keeping that balance and taking care of those and having successful squash.
Hmm.
um but whitefly, just if I'm not catching it early enough, it'll start getting everywhere and on
Yeah.
anything too. And so I'll start pulling things if it's a little bit beyond where I think I can start to manage it.
Hmm.
And if it's any, there's a certain level. If it's low enough, I can start managing it by trying to wash it off, do things as natural as possible, but stay on it every day. Good. If it's a little bit more, then I'll go to right directly to spray.
Yeah.
But then if it's hit that level where it's just a little too far, then it's pull. I start pulling things and burning things, and because I don't want it to get to everything else, because then
Yeah.
just becomes too much of a problem with that stuff.
Yeah, those things, they do multiply so fast, just like aphids. But one
Hmm.
thing, I've been haven't had any issues with aphids for a long time, and one of the things that I've done different, and I've been trying to tell people to try it out as well, is radishes are a huge, attraction for the aphids, and
Yeah.
So I grow these daikons, but daikons are so beneficial. For one, is like you can eat all parts of the plants, but two, the root system goes really deep into the ground, and it creates like a structure into the soil that will help loosen things up. So that's another benefit. But also,
Yeah.
it the aphids love them, and so
Oh,
I grow them next to my pepper plants, and all
yeah.
of the aphids go to the radishes, and they have not bothered my my pepper plants. And
Right.
so in the springtime, radishes are one of the first plants to grow because they love the cold weather. And
Yeah.
in the summertime, they grow crazy with the leaves because they don't develop bulbs when it's hot, but they do
Yeah.
produce a lot of leaves, and the leaves, and then they eventually grow these stems that have a lot of seed pods. That's another
Mm-hmm.
reason I grow them for microgreens too, because I collect
Yep.
so many seeds. But because of all those growth that in very little time, it helps attract a lot of aphids if you do have an aphids problem, which I
Yeah.
don't anymore, but they
Right.
that's one plant that aphids really would go
You
to
set them
first.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You set them up as a feeder plant,
Yes.
and then kind of like, go this way, go over here instead of over there,
Hmm.
but definitely it's a good thing, and I do that too. If I got a plant that's starting to look like it's getting eaten up by the aphids, I'll try to push back the populations the best I can, but I'm not going to necessarily worry too much about that plant in particular, because that if I'm letting them feed there, it's less likely that they're going to go. And it's worked for these Brussels sprouts that I have.
Yeah.
I got one that immediately started getting attacked by it. I washed them back, and it just seemed like they were populating faster, and I could deal with them. So I just let them have that plant and kept them clean, and kept an eye on the other plants. So I'd
Yeah.
make sure the other plants are getting washed off and not allowing the population to move over at all. And because they're all really keeping an eye on what's going on over here,
Hmm.
I'm saving the plants over here, over on the other side. So in some senses, it's a good idea to kind of let them just kind of have their way with some things if they're a little bit unmanageable.
Yeah. And for people that are kind of like new to gardening, and sometimes you wonder why you get aphids so often, it's a lot of the times it's because you're over fertilizing. There's too much
Hmm.
nitrogen in your soil, and it is like a huge attraction for aphids. And so
Yeah.
notice, if you notice that anytime you fertilize your plants, you're going to see aphids come very quickly. If you
Yeah.
use those, high nitrogen fertilizer, they'll come very fast. And so if you balance everything out, you make your own compost, have a living soil, as you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
you rarely see aphids, or you may see them, but there won't be enough to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and again too, aphids, I think probably are one I've found to be probably one of the more manageable when it comes to pests that invade our gardens. And I deal with them at some sort of level every year, but if I'm catching them, if I'm out there often enough, keeping an eye on things, if I catch them early enough, just washing them off with water really works the best for a lot of them. And then like I said, every now and then, if they get to a little bit too much, I'll let them have a plant, you know, and grow plenty, so that you have enough to grow plenty, so you have enough to share, right?
Right. And they'll bring ladybugs to your garden.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully, yeah, then you're attracting the ladybugs, the lacewings, and all of those others that love to feed on those. I actually got praying mantis finally growing and nesting and regrowing in my garden spaces too. I've got two different varieties of them, and it's kind
That's
of
nice.
nice to catch those guys in the garden too, munching on things. And
Mhm. They look so cool to have around.
oh, they are at first too, and I'm really good with bugs, man. In fact, like spiders, they're all cool. I
Yeah.
leave them alone. I let them do whatever. All sorts of bugs I'm really cool with,
Hmm.
but it took me some getting used to when it came to praying mantises. They're just so big.
Yeah.
The way their heads move, they're like little aliens and all of that. They freaked me out for a while, man. I mean, for the most part, I'm like, oh man, it's spiders, and you got people are freaked out about the spiders. I'm like, oh no, they're okay, no
Yeah.
problem, let them crawl around and have no problem with that. But a praying mantis, I was like, like had the hardest time letting them crawl on my hand and all of that because it's just like, I don't know.
That's
I'm
what
really used to them now. I mean, I really like seeing them in the garden and everything
I,
now, but it took me a couple years to kind of work into it with those guys.
yeah, I know exactly how you
Mhm.
feel because I'm the same way when it comes to hornworms. Man, those things freak me out.
Yeah, hornworms are something too. I've seen it. I haven't had too much of a problem with them as far as my garden, but
Mhm.
I've seen them in other gardens and they're just huge. They're fat and just, yeah, they're not. Yeah, I wouldn't want
So
to be
with
messing
the
with them too much.
with the hornworms, so I have sort of like a control method for them. They love tobacco plants. So
Yes.
so I grew one tobacco plants one year, and I just let it go to seed. And oh man, tobacco plant one pod have like 1,000 seed. It's just so much seeds.
It's
And then
amazing.
and then sometimes I don't harvest them, and then the seeds just fall, and they'll just grow back the next day. Whatever lives would live, whatever dies would die, because there's just so many of them. And so I'll take
Mhm.
one of the one that lives, and I'll put it into the same spot with the peppers. But you have to be very careful when you grow pepper plants next to your tobacco plants, because tobacco plants, the leaves are massive. They will shield the sun away
Mhm.
from it. So you got to
Oh
grow
yeah.
in an area where it's behind everything,
Yes.
so that it can not block the sun from your other plants. And they grow
Yeah.
like 6 7 feet tall. The leaves are like enormous. And I think
Yeah.
because of that, the hummingbird, those hornworm moth,
Yeah,
they
yeah, the
see that
hummingbird one.
first. They'll just go
Yeah,
directly to it. And so
exactly.
they left my peppers alone, and I see them all the time on my tobacco plant. And I was like, just eat it, because I don't know what to do with those plants anyway.
Yeah, I gotta grow tobacco again too. I did that many years ago. And it again too, talk about certain methods of creating the balance, especially with taking care of pests and all of that. So
Yeah,
tobacco really attracts pests
yeah,
because like you said, it's big, beautiful leaves. They're these awesome
yeah.
plants, but they're also really sticky too.
They are
So
very
they're
sticky.
so like there's a lot of those little small bugs, little small
Mhm.
fly type bugs. Man, they'll go right to that because it's such an attractive plant and stick right to it.
Yeah, I grow those in my tent for the when I grow indoors,
Yeah.
hydroponic, indoor soil and stuff like that. You get these little gnats running everywhere. So I'll put a
r-
little tobacco plant in there, and they get stuck to it.
Yeah.
They can't get out.
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah. Growing them indoors too. That and then you can kind of maintain the size as well by
Yeah, you
just
can.
leave them in a small pot and
Yeah,
yeah, but those would be a good idea for indoors as well.
they're
But yeah,
really
that's a
beautiful plants. The leaves are just so big. You can't imagine.
ag-
It's just
again,
enormous.
it's amazing how like big a plant like that can get from a
Hmm.
seed so tiny.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got to be one of the tiniest seeds, as you
it
mentioned.
is
Like their
very
pods
small.
just have thousands of them, but they're just the tiniest of little things that you can see. And I think like one of those little tiny seeds just grows this big, massive plant with these huge leaves.
It's just amazing. It's crazy.
Just the one of the wonders of nature, man. One of the
Yeah.
real reasons why we're all such lovers of gardening and growing and all that is because of things just like that,
Mhm.
plants and stuff that are just so amazing and in the way they grow from, again, such a small seed when it comes to that.
Yeah, and those seeds are very expensive. They sell them off of these sites, and you buy them, and they'll give you like maybe 100 seeds, but that 100 seeds would fit into like a tiny little
Yeah.
small package. It's so little. And
Yep.
I I collected seeds one year from like I think 2 plants, and I was like, what am I going to do with these billions of seeds? I mean, there's just so many. It's just
Right.
it's just amazing at how many seeds you can get, and I mean how you can just grow one plant and probably sell those seeds for like a few years.
Yeah, for real. I know. And I guess also with the price, getting them online, finding a way to sell them or
Yeah.
get them out there to people and all of that, or even I don't know, not sell them and just give them away. But
If you ever need any, I got a ton.
th-
Like I
there you
got
go, right?
billions.
Yeah, I might have to get some from you to start growing those again in my garden too. I would like to grow some of those plants again and use them again. Also, like you said, for good pest control.
Mhm.
In your garden, they're really kind of one of those natural pest controls. Yeah,
And one other thing I just learned from that, you can allow the leaves to dry, and then you seep it in water and use it as a bug spray. I think
yeah,
there's a substance inside the leaf like nicotine or whatever that is that my
right.
buddy of mine mentioned, and he said that's all he used for for spraying the bugs. Just
Really.
yeah. So it's that's another way to use the plants.
Yeah, so you just take it right off and just let it soak in water and just kind of
I think you
break
gotta let
down.
it dry first,
Oh,
because
dry
when
first.
it start when it's almost like you age it. You gotta let it dry. It becomes brown, and then
Yeah,
it has this amazing smell. It smells like raisin,
yeah,
and then after that you can use it and kind of cook it in the water, and then use the water as a bug spray. Add a little soap because the soap helps the liquid remain on the leaves.
yeah, yeah. That's a good idea too. I'll have to definitely, yeah, get some seeds from you and try that in my garden this next year. That would definitely be great. Like I said, I've thought about that. I don't even remember where or how I got seeds for it years ago, but they were really nice and I really enjoyed them. And you could see again, like the thing that blew me away was looking at all of these bugs that were stuck to it like flypaper. It was just right on, right on. So again, let's jump back into this story a little bit here too. So I mean, when did you get back into growing and gardening again? When you
um
when you
so
got older.
yeah, so after school I started to move around the country
Mm-hmm.
to pursue my career in
Yeah.
technology. And so I moved all over the place, and I always live in apartments because it's always temporary. I live one
Yeah.
year here, one year there. I just move all over the place. And when you move away from the main cities, like for example Dallas and Houston's and stuff like that, you get like varieties of all kinds of different types of food. You get the Asian foods and all that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes you move to the smaller city, like I live near Nashville. They so the choices are very limited. And so I was like, man, I want to grow these pea shoots. Like they don't have
Yeah.
them here. And so I started to grow microgreens because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew a ton of microgreens because I wanted these shoots. And I just love growing things. Period. And
Yeah.
also that when you're in your younger years, you move around, you kind of like you eat bad, and then the doctor say, hey, your health is not that great. You need to change your diet.
I know
And
that
so
story.
that's one of the things that got me into growing microgreens, because I read a lot about it. I was like, what is a microgreen? This is back like in 2012 or
Yeah.
2010, sorry. And microgreens, what is that? I didn't even know
Yeah.
what microgreens were. But then
Mm-hmm.
later I found out they're basically the same as large greens, except they're little.
Right. Right.
And so I grew a lot of microgreens, and started to exercise, eat microgreens, eat a lot of better foods, and then started mountain biking and cycling, and then magically is just lost all the weight. My
Yeah.
health got better. And from there on, I just like, I'll just grow more things inside, because I live in an apartment. So I said, what can
Yeah.
I what can I grow that I can do inside that are small? I want to grow some
Yeah.
peppers inside. Let me try it. So
Mm-hmm.
I researched hydroponic, and at the time, hydroponic was only for like marijuana,
Yep.
like large scale. growers and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And when
Yeah.
you talk about, micro hydroponic, not many people know the topic, especially using it to grow like vegetable and peppers.
Yeah.
And so there's a channel that I used to follow. He's a great guy from Canada. I'm not sure if you know him. He goes by Brock something. He just stopped making videos. I mean, great
Yeah.
personality. Was a huge resource for me when it comes to hydroponic. And he was one of the first one to send me the ghost pepper seeds back in the
Oh,
day
okay. All right.
that I grew. And I also follow Bobby, which is um, I forgot the channel's name. I don't think he makes videos anymore. And that he introduced cracky to a lot of people. So
Yeah.
all my cracky stuff that I learned in the beginning, how to mix the cracky nutrients, how to use master blend, was all from Bobby.
Yeah.
He's just
Right.
he's just a wealth of information. And after
Yeah.
that, I learned a lot from those channels, and then I ran with my own. I started to create
Yeah. So I was
little
gonna say,
hydroponic
right.
system that nobody has ever seen before. It's like,
Yeah.
growing things in a little can. Let me show you some.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this here.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
And so, from there, I started to do more hydroponic things, and I started to grow. First I started lettuce because that's the easiest thing, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna grow peppers in hydroponic and see what
Yeah.
happens. And
Yeah.
then to my surprise, I was like, it was amazing. I started with a Thai chili, and it grew just fine. It tastes exactly the same. I was like, wow, this is incredible. I didn't know hydroponic can grow peppers in little space. All you need is a light. But lights
Yeah.
were very expensive at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And
I
so,
bought these $300 lights that are just this big. And I
is it
started.
around this time though that you're exploring and doing all this stuff that you
Yeah,
started your own YouTube channel?
yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to
So I know
show
you.
people how easy it is to grow microgreens. So I actually started the channel growing microgreens. And
Yeah.
so if you research my videos on microgreens, you will see that it's one of the very first few videos on microgreens, and a bunch of
Yeah.
channels sprouted out after that. It's all after my videos have shown. So you can
Right.
see the timeline is very easy
Yeah.
because at the time they didn't have it. And so I started to gain some followings because of microgreens. And
Mhm.
you know at that time I was very shy. I didn't show my face and all that stuff.
Right.
My voice
I
was
think
very,
I
it's
remember those videos.
yeah,
It was always you behind the camera and you were just showing things and stuff.
yeah. And so then it transformed, and I started doing cloning,
Yeah.
propagation, peppers, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna breed my own peppers because
Yeah.
it looks so easy because I've done it when we've done in our I used to grow with my brothers. We cross pollinate and do all that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And I started creating my own peppers, and I was like, I want to do a super hot ones. And so I
Yeah.
started crossbreeding peppers, created my own variety, and then that's that. It goes
Was
from
it
there.
you that started, or were you just a part of the pepper lovers community?
I started the pepper lovers community
Yeah, that's
on
what.
G Plus. So I was a
Yeah, I
founder at
remember
G
that.
Plus, and then when they shut down G Plus, in G Plus we had like 25,000 people on our community.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And then that shut down, and so we transitioned over to Facebook, and then it's starting to grow back pretty big as well.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite places where everybody's talking and growing all the different varieties. But I think one of the things that's really great out of all the things that you've done, and you just kind of touched on this just a little bit about starting to create your own varieties,
Hmm.
is seeing the people who get onto the pepper lovers community looking for seeds for the KS, whatever it is, LS, lemon starburst, right? And
Yeah.
then there's a few other ones. And so it's really great to see that out of all of the varieties that are out there, and all the different ones that people could be looking for seeds for, I always see posts of people like, I need to get a hold of some KS seeds. How do I get a hold of these? And people will trade them and offer them out and everything. So I think that's all really, really awesome.
Yeah, I think through that I met a lot of good friends. I think Chris was one of them. Christopher.
Yeah.
I met Chris
Yeah.
through
He's,
either the through the gardening channel and talking on those communities, and I was like, man,
mhm.
I made a really good friend, and Chris is like one of my best garden friends online right now that I've never met in
Yeah.
person.
I know. Me too. I mean, Chris has been awesome ever since he started his channel just a little while before I did, but he was kind of the inspiration. We were both kind of friends and followers of
Yeah.
Ray Browning. He had the channel Praxis
Hmm.
55712. So I think that's kind of where we first met, or probably commented with each other on something in that kind of community there. And then I saw his channel, and he was just getting his channel started. So I was like, man, I'm inspired. If he could start one, and he's growing in Norway and doing all this stuff, I could do this too. And so I started a channel, and as I was first starting to promote it, and he was one of the first few people to jump on board and, send me comments and
Hmm.
private messages, and just totally encouraging, and now just, again, one of my favorite people to
Yeah.
talk with and hang out with, and do live streams like we do
Hmm.
each year. We do the spring live stream that we do.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's great to kind of have that circle of friends in this garden community, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially, like yourself as well too, because ultimately, as even I'm meeting Chris and starting my channel, I'd already been watching you and your videos and learning all this different stuff from you for several years already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and a lot of it, again, geared towards pepper growing, because peppers are like one of my favorite things to grow.
Hmm.
Everybody loves tomatoes. I love tomatoes too. There's lots of other stuff, but peppers have got to be one of the, I think, the coolest things in the garden. There's so much variety with
Yeah.
peppers, whether they're sweet varieties, which I grow more of nowadays than I do playing around with all of the other hot varieties that I don't really eat that much of. I just love growing them and all of that. So,
Yeah.
so that was kind of one of the things I would follow along with you and the things that you were doing. And I even tried doing some indoor stuff, but I mostly grow outdoors. I haven't really figured out the hydroponic stuff and all of that, or the crack key things that you do as well. But I did toy around with a little bit, because I think, and again too, I think one of the things I think is one of my favorite things about your channel and all the things that you grow, that have just throughout all the years too, you haven't changed this a bit either. And if you could probably pull up what you just showed us, the pepper
Uh-huh.
plant, you got it right there.
Like these here.
Yeah, pop it up there, all the way up. Yeah, you see what he's growing out of there? That's like a water
Water
bottle
bottle.
or something. Yeah. This is Kang since the beginning, for sure. Grow out
Yeah.
of anything and everything. Little dishes, water bottles, Slurpee cups from like the 7-Eleven
Yes,
or
I did that
whatever.
too. I grew lettuce in a
Just grow out
Ziploc
of
bag.
anything. Grow it out of anything. And I love it so
Did you
much.
see that video where I grew a lettuce in a Ziploc bag?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it
Lettuce in a
worked.
Ziploc bag. Well, I bet it did too. Oh yeah, look, here's Chris right here too. We need to do something together again
Oh,
soon.
Chris, yeah, definitely. On the topic of hydroponic, it took a lot of convincing to tell Chris that, Chris, you got to try hydroponic. And now he went overboard. He's growing a coffee tree.
Right? Yeah. He takes things to a whole nother
Yeah,
level, man.
Chris just
I,
goes beyond the norm. It's like, okay,
and
you grow peppers, I'm going to grow a fruit tree.
that's what we were talking about when he was on the show a couple weeks ago, was just, for him, is that, he's all the way up there in Norway, so he's
Mhm.
got a lot of these extreme weather, issues to deal with, so obviously, with it being cold most of the year like that, you're really driven indoors. Test
Yeah.
what you can
Yeah.
do with things indoors,
Hmm.
and he tests every single boundary there is for sure, and does it successfully. I mean,
Yeah.
like you see with the coffee tree, and while he was on the show, he had behind him his lemon tree. It's
Yeah.
got lemons all over it, just growing
Hmm.
like crazy indoors up in Norway.
Yeah, I think the great thing about his channel is that he incorporate technology with gardening. He kind of like bring both worlds together. And so
Yeah,
that's really interesting to me because I'm also from a technology background. And
yeah,
so gardening is just a way to kind of like, get away from all of the, you know.
yeah. And kind of again too similar to what he does, and you're just working on these different systems and
Mhm.
growing things indoors and constantly testing and growing things, and I think that's just, I don't know, I think it's what makes what you do on your channel really fun, and all of that is that you're really testing those little boundaries of what you can do and what you can grow
Mhm.
indoors. Yeah. Also too, one of the things also, and I'm not sure how much you've done on it, I didn't really check too much, but you did start a new channel so that you could talk about and make videos and explore your new farm lifestyle,
Yeah,
right?
I did. I did.
Trying to build yourself a farm, the Khang Starr farm, and all that. There's also links to both of your channels right down in the description
Yeah,
for the
thanks.
video here as well. So yeah, how things going on the farm?
It's good. It's a lot of things to do.
Yeah,
And plus, it's an hour from here. So when every time I want to go out there and do things, you got to drive an hour there, an hour back. So things are moving very, very slowly.
yeah,
And yeah, the second channel is basically, I want to capture, sort of like vlog and do things
yeah,
to show what's going on out there. Owning land has always been a dream of mine, and that piece of land has been there for a while. I just never done anything on it. It just sits there.
yeah.
And so now I wanted to, like, you know what? I want to do something on it. I want to grow fruit trees, maybe raise some animals and all that.
Yeah.
And my neighbors actually have cows running over there. So
Oh,
sometimes
right
if I
on.
go out there, the cows are just running, and horses.
Oh, right on.
And there's a pond. I've been trying to fish in there. There's some fish, I think. It's just I'm not
Yeah.
using the right bait or whatever. But I see them pop out of the water every once in a while.
It's a good
But
sized pond then, huh?
yeah, but I think one of the things that I love most is when I go out there in the spring, and I
Yeah.
mean just wildflowers just like everywhere.
Oh,
Bees,
I can
and
imagine.
we don't see a lot of bumblebees at my house. But when you go out there, man, they'll run into you. They'll fly into you.
Right,
These
right.
these huge bees. They look like little flying teddy bears.
Yeah.
And I just love it. Hummingbirds and all that stuff is just
Man,
it's just
if I had
amazing.
space like that, that's what I would be doing is I'd be having bees. Bees are my bees and chickens, but bees more so. I want,
Yeah.
my own
Well, I
beehives.
want to learn how to keep bees, and so I'm
Yeah.
actually went to my neighbor's house today. His daughter to keep bees, and I'm
Yes.
like, please teach me.
Exactly. I
And
know.
so
That's going to be. I'm trying to work in one of a visit with a beekeeper soon enough so I can get.
yeah,
I really, I've got bees all around my garden. I love
yeah,
them. I try to capture little video clips whenever I
yeah.
can when they're visiting the garden and all that. But to have an actual beehive and
Hmm.
manage,
Yeah,
hundreds, thousands of bees,
yeah. That,
and have them crawling around on you.
that's what I want to do.
Oh man.
I'm going to learn that next,
Yes.
definitely.
And if that, yeah, and you got the space and the flowers to
Hmm.
feed them and all of that, man,
Yeah.
you got to get something going on that line for sure. I would be. I mean, in harvesting the honey, I love honey
Yeah,
and fresh honey that, just like anything else too. Like, like when you grow, like we talked about, you grow things in your garden, it always tastes better, right? Well, I mean, I got to imagine if you're growing your own bees and honey, right? It's got
yeah.
to taste better, right?
Hmm. So yeah, so I'm also doing fruit trees, as you mentioned. A bunch of them are just not doing well right now, but
Yeah.
I realized that you know, apple trees are very tough in climates like Texas, where if you want them to live on their own, it's going to be very difficult. But
Yeah.
persimmons, man, persimmons are just so tough. They
The
just
rock in there, huh?
months and months without water in 100 degrees, and they're still alive. Um,
Wow,
and
that's
then
great.
cherries are just tough as well, still alive.
Yeah.
What other? And then peaches and nectarine. Those are the few that are still alive. Apples
Doing
didn't make
good.
it. My fig tree is barely hanging on. But
Wow.
next year I'm
But the
gonna add,
stone fruit then, so every one of those you mentioned were pretty much
yeah,
stone fruit. Those are
and
doing
Asian pears. My Korean giant pear is doing amazing out there without
okay.
water. And then next
Nice.
year I'm adding jujubes. Have you heard jujube fruits?
Jujubes. I've heard of them. I've never had a chance to try them though.
Yeah, those things are one of the most drought tolerant trees that loves
Yeah.
the heat, because
Yeah.
with more heat they become sweeter. And so I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna grow maybe 5 or 6 of those next year on those.
Yeah. Whenever I hear jujube, I also think of, which I know are different, but it's Java Takaba, right? Java Takaba. Those ones are the ones that they grow like the black fruit that grow
Oh yes, yes, the from
right on the trunk.
Brazil, Djibouti Kaba or something like that.
Java, yeah, Jitu,
Yeah, something
yeah.
I don't even know how to pronounce. But I had one plant growing, and the summer heat killed it. It just can't
Oh,
stand
really?
the summer heat. Yeah,
Wow. Needs to be shaded or something, huh? So
yeah,
I know they grow in like, they in a warmer climate, but they probably just got to be shaded more than being
yeah.
direct.
I think they're native to Brazil.
Yeah. But yeah, those are so fascinating. You never seen anything like it that grows right on the trunk or the main part of
Yeah,
the tree instead of out on the limbs or off of any of the flowers. It's just the coolest thing
yeah.
ever.
They look like little grapes that grows on the side of
Yeah.
like hundreds and thousands of them.
Yeah, it's
Very interesting.
really, really cool. And they're actually really tasty too.
Oh,
So I've
I've
gotten
never
to
had
try
them
them.
before.
Yeah, they have one of those trees growing at the Urban Homestead down in Pasadena. So, which I'll be there in just a couple of days. I'm going to go do another visit over there and talk to all of them over there. So I'm kind of
Nice.
excited.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll get some more of those. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
fruit trees is one of them that I'm doing. I'm gonna grow a lot of them. So right now I'm trying to find which varieties can live on their own without me having to do much. And
yeah.
so I'll let you know which one's the most hardy.
Right. For sure. Definitely. Yeah. So I'll definitely be following along on your Khang Starr's farm to see
Yeah,
how all of that stuff goes.
and then
Probably like we were talking about creating some water harvesting kind of
yeah,
solutions and make some videos on that stuff. I bet you people would love that for sure.
I mean we have water on the property. I just don't want to turn it on. I want to kind of like try to do it naturally first. And if it's a
Yeah.
last resort, then I'll turn on the water. We do have it out there.
Yeah. Well, right on. Yeah, that's great. Right on. Awesome. So let's see here. Um, what do we want to trying to think of where we kind of left off there? Well, pretty much, just getting on and doing YouTube from all of the different experience that you were growing and doing indoors with hydroponics and all that. Oh, the one question did you do the earth bucket? Did you grow peppers in the earth bucket on your channel?
No. Oh, yes. Actually, you mean the
The
self-watering
wicking,
bucket? Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes, yeah.
because
Um,
I've been trying to track down where did I find that idea from, and every time I think about it, I kind of, I remember thinking about your growing on your channel years ago. So
yeah, I didn't create that idea. It's been
no,
floating around
no,
for a long, long time. And
yeah,
so one of the things that I did with those self-watering buckets in the beginning was also peppers. So I wanted to
yeah,
grow peppers where I just let it sit in the bucket and it waters itself for like a week, and then I'll come back and water it again. It actually
yeah,
works pretty well.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I still use them primarily for my peppers on
Yeah.
the patio garden and couple of the other spaces that I have as well too, where, you know, I don't have the choice of all the ground space. In fact, I built like this big wood kind of like enclosure to hold like a dozen of them all together that
Oh,
I
nice.
grow all the peppers in.
Yeah.
You know, kind of a nice cool system right there. But yeah, it's probably one of the greatest additions to my garden. And that's kind of what I was trying to think. I was like, did I get that from Kang or from probably, you know, I probably saw it on your channel and a few other places as well too. But it's literally, I think, one of the best things, especially for anybody growing in a warm climate,
Yeah.
small spaces where you don't really have in-ground space, you know, using those wicking buckets, the earth buckets, I think are really great.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are they're also very cheap to make. So that's probably one of the attraction. People like them because they're very
Hmm.
very cheap.
Yeah, 5 gallons of growing root space that you get for your plants, which is, you know, really great for. That's why I said a primary grow the peppers in them. So they're really great for peppers. I've grown all sorts of other things. I just pulled out a bunch of really good sized onions. I
Oh,
grew like a
nice.
couple
Wow.
of onions in some this year. But I've tried everything from Brussels sprouts to cabbages. I've got some cucumbers growing out of some. You know, so I've tried a lot of different things. It works for a lot of stuff. And like you said, they're so inexpensive because if you can source them from a store,
Hmm. Hmm.
which, you know, they're just tossing them out the back, you know, all the
Yeah.
time, you know,
Like,
bakeries, restaurants.
mhm.
So if you can source those for free, you can get those net pots for pennies on the dollar.
Mhm.
It doesn't cost too much to get the PVC for the tube that you need. Then all you need is a drill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've estimated like if you buy 20 of the net pots and get source 20 of them,
Hmm.
you can make them for under $1 a piece, around
Yeah.
75 cents a piece.
Very inexpensive. You're right.
Yeah, where are you going to find a pot of that size that not only, you know, is it a pot you can grow a plant in,
Hmm.
but works for you too? Because all you do is you feed the water in, let it sit for a few days.
Yeah.
Like, you know, during the hot weather of our summer, I get 2-3 days
Hmm.
of ensuring that my container's not going to dry out
Hmm.
before I have to fill it back up again. Whereas with any other container, I've got to water it almost twice a day during the
Yeah.
height of the summer. So,
Yeah, you're right. Those buckets, you know, because some restaurants that store the pickles in them, they'll just
yep,
trash them. They'll love it if you take it because, you know, they don't want to
yep,
trash them.
yep. A lot of couple of places I have will set them aside for me, and you know, and then I can go grab them. A grocery store just down the street, you know, I get them from. They have their frosting, you know, from the bakery and those sort of things come in these buckets.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, lots of the pickle buckets, butter, you know, all sorts of different things that are getting, you know, moved around in these, you know, restaurants, bakeries,
Hmm.
stores, supermarkets.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's where I say, you know, it's best before going and buying them in a, you know, big box store. You can get Home Depot buckets. Lowe's has their own blue buckets, you know. Harbor
Yeah.
Freight has their own red buckets, you
Yeah.
know. So you can find them all, but why spend like 5-6 bucks for a bucket when you can get them for free, you
Yeah.
know, from these places that'll gladly give them to you and set them aside for you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. Let's see. I think we pretty much covered a lot of great stuff here. Um, Heading towards about the hour here that I hold on to you featured guests for. So I really want to thank you for joining with us and spending some time on your Saturday morning.
Yeah. No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, too, like Chris was saying, we'll have to arrange something maybe in another, you know, few weeks or something like that
Hmm.
when we go on our show's break here. Should be in a few weeks. Maybe I'll call on you guys to do maybe a regular old discussion live stream in between our shows here on Let's Get Growing.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait for that one. I haven't talked to Kristen in a long time, so that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was probably the last time was when we talked on the channel last time, huh?
Yeah.
Well, right on, Kang. It's really awesome to have you on the show. Really great for you to spend your time here. And you know, I encourage everybody to go check out Khang's channel, which is again down in the description below, both his regular channel and his Khang Starr's farm, and see all the things that he's got growing on down there, down on the farm with Khang. All right, man. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
We'll catch you later.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible feature visits.
All right, right on. Awesome. Another great interview with another great gardener and good friend of ours here on the Urban Gardener channel, Khang Starr. It's so awesome to just get a chance to talk with him about gardening and growing things. And same, with the chance and an opportunity to be able to hang out with all of you guys too as well. I mean, I really appreciate you. Let's see here. In fact, let's say hi to a few people here real quick. I definitely want to say hi to Rob from Rob's Allotment Gardening. Thanks for joining with us again this week. Christopher, as always, it's great to see you on our on the show and joining in with us on the conversation. Wendy from the Pacific Northwest here. Good to see you. Darth, Pacific Permaculture, Jim P, Andreas, and we got Super Nerd. Awesome. I'm a super nerd too. I'm a super garden nerd. So, really awesome to have all of you on here. And this, Jim P even says, "We love you, Khang." Yes. So definitely a great conversation with Khang Starr on the show today. And really awesome to have all of you here with us. And be sure, click that like button if you haven't yet already. Hit the thumbs up there for our show today and our interview with Khang Starr. Give him a big thumbs up. And then, of course, hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet. And be sure to come back and join with us every Saturday here for our show. And share with all of your garden friends, and help us get the word out about the Let's Get Growing show. I think we have a really awesome, fun gardening conversation here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on the Urban Gardener channel, and also on the Let's Get Growing live channel as well too. We're streaming to both of those areas. So I encourage you all as well too, if you are watching the show and you're subscribed on this channel, what I'm trying to do is get people to move over to our show's actual channel for YouTube. So that's what I'll be promoting and pushing here in the coming weeks, is to start building our subscriber base over on the Let's Get Growing channel. And you can find out about all of that and all the things that we've got going on here on the Let's Get Growing show at our website, letsgetgrowing.live. And then, of course, we also mentioned during the conversation about utilizing the 3-in-1 plant guard from IV Organics. It's a great way to help prevent pest damage on your plants and your trees, especially, whether you're growing them in ground or you got some container trees. Their 3-in-1 plant guard is really awesome. I encourage you to go check that out. Go get some of your own at ivorganics.com. Use our promo code GROW10 in order to save 10% off on the 3-in-1 plant guard there as well. And also be sure to get down in the description below and go and join our Facebook group, the Let's Get Growing Gardening group on Facebook, because this is a great place for you all to share your gardens with me. I love showing you my gardens. We're going to be making more videos and have more features and different things that we'll be showing you here on the show and on the channel for my gardens. But I love seeing all of your gardens as well too. So the Let's Get Growing group is a great place for you all to be able to share your pictures of your gardens. Show me what you've got growing on. If you're a newer gardener, you can ask some questions and get some good help and advice on different things that you might be experiencing in your garden. Or if you're an experienced gardener, you can help give some advice to some newer gardeners, answer some questions, or, again, too, ask some questions, because I'm an experienced gardener. I've always got new things I'm learning about or trying to figure out too. So the Let's Get Growing group is a great place to be able to get together with a great gardening community and be able to talk all about your gardens, share, and find out new information if you need so as well too. So definitely go and check out the links in the description below as well to join the group there as well too. And if you're not, David says he's not on Facebook. So, if you're somewhere else, we got Instagram as well as just right here on our YouTube channel here. We also have the community page. I'm trying to post there as well and keep and manage different things as well too, as far as that goes. So you can always jump in the comments section and help share and all that sort of stuff as well too, because I love hearing from everybody. And let's see here real quick. Let me answer a question I just saw here. Wendy was asking, where is Khang's farm? Where exactly it is, I'm not sure, but Khang grows out of Texas. So he's in the Texas there. So that's where all of his gardening is. All right. So, and I want to also remind you all before we end the show here as well too, that we won't be on this next Saturday. Our show will be this Wednesday. Actually, we're doing a special on location live stream down in Ventura, California. We'll be traveling down there for the 10th National Heirloom Exposition. So this is going to be a really fun time for us to catch up with a bunch of different gardeners and growers. It's just a really, really great fun event held and put on by Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. And again, it's been 3 years since they've put on the exposition. So it's going to be their 10th one. We're finally going to get to it 3 years later down in Southern California. So I'm going to be packing everything up, getting it into the car here real soon. And then I'm going to be taking a trip here throughout tomorrow all the way down to Southern California so that I can go and enjoy the Heirloom Exposition and do some filming. We've got a couple of other visits I'm going to be doing. So those will be videos we can look forward to on the Urban Gardener channel in the coming weeks of some different visits. I mentioned one of them during the interview with Khang. We'll be stopping by and checking out the Urban Homestead. This is our most popular video on the Urban Gardener channel, with about 250,000 views that we have for that video. So we're going to get a chance to go back a few years later and get a visit and check and see how things are going today. And then this time we're actually going to have the opportunity to talk to all 3 of the siblings who run the Urban Homestead. It's basically a small micro farm in Pasadena there outside of LA. And it's just a really great place. It's so awesome. They're awesome people. I'm really looking forward to getting back together with them to film that video, as well as I'm going to go visit Jemiah Hargens. Jemiah was on the show a few weeks back, and he actually kind of gave us a little walking tour of this really cool micro farm that he has right down in Los Angeles, right in the city. This guy's doing some amazing work with building micro farms and these really cool water recycling systems that they're doing, and building these farms to produce food in some of these food deserts of Los Angeles. This guy is on a real mission, and we're going to go and visit with him, get a really good look at that farm, and talk with him a little bit more about what they're doing there and their mission at Los Angeles. Crop Swap LA is the organization that he runs down there too. So we're going to do that. We're going to visit with one of our good friends, Wayne. He'll be joining with me a bit too on the Heirloom Expo, but we're going to visit with him and check in on his garden and all of that. Wayne is a top #1 contributor for the Let's Get Growing Facebook group that I mentioned. We got a link for down below, so we'll go and visit with him and check out what's growing on in his garden as well too. All sorts of stuff. But the main thing you got to remember for the Let's Get Growing show is that we're going to have a special showing this Wednesday at 1:30. It'll be just here a little bit later, so check in on our main page of our channel. I'll make a post on the Facebook group, our Facebook page, our community page here for YouTube, Instagram, all of that, to give you the information on our live stream that we'll be having at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time this Wednesday, and that'll be live from the National Heirloom Exposition. And hopefully we'll get an opportunity to bring some of our guests that we've had on our previous shows. Christy Wilhelmy's down there, the author of Garden Variety, and she runs the gardennerd.com website and blog. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to her. John Kohler is going to be speaking there as well. So we'll have John on and have a little chat with him and talk about the Heirloom Exposition. Our friend Wendy Fan, who was our first guest on the show way back when we started it back in February. Ashley Thomas, which was our last guest in our last show last week, author of How to Become a Garden. Hopefully we'll get her on and have a conversation. Bevan Cohen and Jer Gettle, founder and the owner of Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company, the one who's putting on the Heirloom Exposition. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with all of them in a special Let's Get Growing live, and then we'll be coming back the week after Saturday from there as well too. So really awesome to have all of you here joining with us here for our live stream, and again to hope to see all of you guys this next week as we do the live stream this Wednesday, and then we'll see all of you here again too. So from all of us here at Let's Get Growing, have a great week, and we'll see you next Saturday. Or no, not next Saturday, this Wednesday at 1:30 p.m.